Hello Mila, hello Jack. Hello everybody else who's watching. Welcome to Storytime with Grandad. Today's book is from Paddington, and it is Paddington at the Circus. One day, Paddington was out doing his morning shopping when he came across a very strange-looking man pasting a picture on the wall. It showed a huge tent decorated with red and green and blue lights and streamers, and across the middle were the words, "The greatest show on earth. One night only. Book now." When Paddington got home, he hurried indoors to tell the others. "The greatest show on earth," repeated Jonathan, giving Judy a wink. "In a tent." "You must have been dreaming." Then Judy announced the good news. It was a circus, and they all had tickets for the front row that very evening. Paddington had never been to a circus before, and he grew more and more excited as the time drew near. The lights were already on when they arrived, and there was a lovely smell of sawdust in the air. It looked very gay and inviting. But the circus itself was even more exciting. There was a band, and a ringmaster in a top hat, and even a lady selling ice cream cones. Altogether, there was so much to see, Paddington didn't know what to look at first. "I think I'd like to join a circus, Mr. Brown," he announced happily. Then he caught sight of the man he had met that morning. He was in the middle of the ring, balancing a bucket on the end of a long pole. "That's a clown," explained Judy. "He's standing on stilts. That's why he looks so tall." Paddington waved, and the man came over and bent down to shake his paw. The bucket tipped, and Paddington jumped up in alarm. Luckily, the bucket was empty, and it was tied to the end of the pole, so Paddington soon got over his fright. Mr. Brown had brought him an ice cream cone, and as the band started to play, they sat back to enjoy the show. All, that is, except Paddington. The first act was barely over when he had yet another shock. Looking up towards the roof of the tent, he saw a man hanging from a rope. "I expect that's one of the popular prizes," began Jonathan, looking at the programme. "They are trapeze artists." But Paddington didn't stop to listen. "Don't worry, Mr. Price," he called. "I'm coming." Before the others could stop him, Paddington was halfway up the nearest tent pole. He clambered onto a small platform, and then he nearly fell off again, with surprise when he saw a second man coming towards him. He was dressed in tights and was riding a bicycle. But Paddington was not nearly as surprised as the men themselves. "Look out!" shouted the leader. "Hold on!" Paddington did as he was told. He grabbed the nearest thing he could. The next moment, he found himself flying through the air. The audience had been clapping before, but when Paddington appeared, they clapped more loudly than ever, for they all thought he was part of the act. He missed the platform on one side and began to swim backwards and forwards, getting lower and lower until he came to a stop over the middle of the ring. "Don't let go!" shouted the ringmaster. "Whatever you do, don't let go!" And then he stopped, and a look of horror came over his face as something soft and white landed on his beautifully brushed top hat. "Crikey!" exclaimed Jonathan. "Paddington's ice cream!" In the end, it was Paddington's friend the clown who saved him. He held up the bucket on the end of his pole so that Paddington could step into it. The cheers as Paddington landed in the ring made the whole tent shake. "Best act I've seen in years," shouted a man near the Browns. "More, more!" Paddington gave the man a hard stare as he stepped out of the bucket. He'd had quite enough of being a trapeze artist for one night. Even the ringmaster had to admit that Paddington had been the star act of the evening, and at the end of the show he gave him another ice cream cone and insisted he take part in the grand parade. "It's a pity we're only here for one night," he said sadly. "I'd like to have you in my circus all the time." "Do you still want to join the circus?" asked Judy later that night. Paddington shook his head. And then a faraway look came in his eyes as he tested his sheets carefully to make sure he was safely tucked in. "But it was very nice to be asked," he said. "I don't suppose there are many bears from Peru who can say they've been on a trapeze." The end. Goodbye, Mila. Goodbye, Jack. I'll see you soon. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.